We always want to chime in on contracts. Big things when you're looking at this, right? We talked about best interest of the association acting in good faith. We also talked about relying on your experts. This kind of takes into account all of those things, right? We're not all experts in the construction field. I will be the first among all of you to admit I am not an expert on construction. I leave those things to the experts. But one of the things that you're looking at when you're looking to hire the contractor, right? And I should probably put this one first. Most important, have your attorneys review the contract before you sign, please. I know it costs money, and I know that you're sitting there going, wow, we're really paying him money just to make a few changes about words, but I will caution you, some contractors in this world will include very, very difficult provisions for the association. One of my favorite ones is oftentimes they won't include a provision about termination, right? So how do you terminate the contract? That's always one of my favorites. They'll leave that out. And so you decide you want to fire your contractor. How do you do it? You have to go do some gap filling with the court to figure out how on earth you actually cancel a contract. Not a great way to cancel it. They may also have indemnity provisions, right? Indemnity provisions where the association is indemnifying a contractor for work. I've seen that many times where the contractor says, yes, I will come in and do your plumbing repairs, and you're going to pay for anything that I do wrong. It's a very common provision. The other big thing is insurance. I can never say enough about insurance for volunteer associations where the board is all volunteers. You can never carry enough insurance in my opinion. One of the key things is when you're hiring a contractor, because this is another one of my favorites, I will see where contractors will demand that the association actually insure the project. And they write it in such a way that it really doesn't make sense until you read it about 10 times. And then you go, oh, I get what they're doing. They're getting us to insure the project so that they don't have to carry the insurance because they can't buy the insurance or the insurance isn't available to them, especially if you're in a condominium development. There are special insurance for a contractor to purchase in order to work in condominiums. Why? Because whenever you do work in condominiums as a contractor, you will be sued. Somebody will sue you. Is that right, Bill? Right? It's almost a guarantee in life.
If you live homeowner suing the board and
correct.
The board ends up suing the
correct. Because it's just the way it is. So always make sure that the insurance is there. One of the big things too is where you hear people talk about additional insured. It's not just additional insured. Think about if you're doing a big project, additional named insured, so you're actually a party to the insurance as an association. Does that make sense? Rather than just being additional insured where you have the right to make a claim, if you're an additional named insured where you're actually named in the insurance, it's going to cost a little bit of money. Because most likely the contractor is going to say, I'm going to pass that cost on to you, association. But it does give you more protection in a bigger project so that you are insured with the same insurance that the contractors get. The other things you want to always double check, workers' compensation and auto insurance. Right? We don't always think about the auto, but making sure that they have vehicle insurance and that we have notice and have received declaration pages and follow up and make sure that those declarations are in place. Auto insurance is one of the big things. You have people driving vehicles, operating heavy equipment, somebody may get hurt. If the insurance isn't there, what are you going to do? It's very tough. So key things as well, what type of contractor do you need? Make sure that they are licensed. Can't say enough about that. There are contractors in this world that are not licensed, that are not qualified to do the work that they claim they're qualified to do. And you don't always think, you're working with, somebody comes to you, I'm a contractor, okay, everybody's a contractor, I see a license number, it must be, and they don't bother to go to the website and double check it. Always double check that information. But key to all of it is, have your attorneys review the contracts, because there's scary parts that they put into these contracts that, I'm not going to say they're bad contractors, but maybe not the best contractors. The other thing, too, is when you're looking at our risk for the association, cannot say enough about the association's insurance, right? Make sure that you know what you're buying. There's one insurance carrier on directors and officers' liability. When they write an insurance policy, they do not insure claims for injunctive and declaratory relief. Anybody know what that is? Injunctions are basically tell somebody to do something, and declaratory relief is tell them that I'm right in my opinion. Most boards of directors, when you get sued, will get sued for an injunction, tell that board to stop doing what they're doing, Your Honor, and they'll seek declaratory relief. Your Honor, tell that board that I'm right, and make it a judgment. That's what you get sued for in the overwhelming majority of the cases. If you don't have insurance for that, you are up the creek, right? I have an association that they had purchased at a great deal, great price. I think they were paying $300 or $400 a month for their directors and officers liability insurance. It was a great price until we actually had to make a claim. And then we've basically been buying a piece of paper because the insurance said, oh, we don't cover that. You're on your own. And so what does the association have to do at that point? How are we going to settle this case as quickly as possible for the least amount of cost? The other thing to remember, too, there's this issue for directors and officers liability. Talk with your insurance professional. Make sure that you're getting all the coverage that you need. The association, because what does insurance cover? It covers everything, but what it doesn't cover. It's a joke, folks. Insurance covers everything, but then they exception, right? Know what your exceptions are. Ask your insurance professional to explain to you, what are these exceptions? Do they deny for prevailing party attorney's fees, right? Association gets sued for making a bad architectural decision. The other side, the owner wins. The biggest risk in that lawsuit for the association is the attorney's fees. Jennifer was talking about my case earlier. That's the big issue right now is who's going to pay whose attorney's fees? Who's the prevailing party? Does the association have to come up with the money, or is the owner going to have to come up with the money? The association has to come up with the money. Who's going to pay for it? Are we going to have to go to the members and specially assess? Or can we go to our carrier and say, you know what, you're responsible under the insurance because we bought attorney's fees protection under our insurance policy. The other thing, too, which is actually kind of an odd one, workers' compensation for associations. Can't say enough about that. All volunteer directors are walking around the development. Maybe you're doing a landscape inspection. You slip and fall and become injured. Are you an employee of the association at that time? Maybe. Would you qualify for workers' compensation if we bought it? Probably. Is it better to be in the workers' compensation field for the association than to be outside of it? Absolutely. Because we can limit our costs through workers' compensation insurance. If you have volunteers that are out in the community, one thing I always tell everybody, don't allow any volunteer to ever go on a ladder. Okay? Ladders are the most dangerous object in any home. If your board's sitting around saying, you know, we're going to have our volunteer go change bulbs on a ladder, just stop. Take a step back. Remember that ladders are the most dangerous thing in our association, right? And hire somebody and pay them and let their insurance deal with it when they slip and fall off or break their neck. But especially too, if you have members going out doing volunteer work, right? We establish a landscape work committee, and they're going to go out and we're going to pick up trash in the area, or we're going to collect leaves off the ground. Make sure that you have workers' compensation if they slip and fall while they're raking leaves, because you're not going to give them sharp objects. You're not going to allow them to go onto ladders. You're not going to let them use chainsaws. And they get injured. Hopefully the workers' compensation is going to do that for you. It's going to protect the association. It's going to insure the damage. And if everything goes as planned, it's not going to cost you that much. Because workers' compensation for volunteers is a pretty reasonable price. So talk to your insurance professionals. Make sure you understand what you're buying. Make sure that your insurance professional is answering your questions about the policy so that you know what on earth did we just spend all that money for, because it is a huge line item in your budget. Right? Insurance for condominiums is astronomical. Insurance for townhomes is astronomical. If you're giving them that much money, they darn well better be able to explain to you what on earth you're buying. And that's because I went to Kaiser yesterday and I was mad as hell. But anyways, I pay you how much a month so that you can sit there at the pharmacy and say, oh, you've been waiting for a half an hour. We're sorry. We missed your prescription. Really now? This is the quality I get. Questions? Yes, sir.